Hi, guys.
Hey, happy to.
Hello.
You guys up next?
I think so, yep.
Okay, cool. I just jumped over from the other one.
Yeah, are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah, I was just making sure all your audio, video is good. Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Awesome. I'm going to leave so you guys can speak and nobody gets bumped out.
Hey,
Right.
Justin, where's my screen share?
Your screen share is on the bottom to the right of the mic icon.
Right.
There's a little gear icon at the very bottom.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it.
Do you want to test it just to make sure it works?
Yeah, it is. Nope. There we go. Your entire screen share. Okay, there we go. Chrome tab, let's do that one. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Fabulous. All right, you guys are just seeing the presentation now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And how about if I click back over here? Are you still seeing the presentation? Yay, it looks like it. Cool. Awesome. And for everybody that's joining, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I think we're just gonna give it a couple more minutes to let folks join. I know that the previous session is going a little over, so everybody grab some coffee and we'll be with you very shortly.
Definitely miss seeing all you guys at a Badgin this year, by the way.
Don't even talk about it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So weird that this is going to be a year without Vegas. No.
Yeah, I've gotten so many emails about the just crazy deals there right now. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure.
Five nights for maybe just nothing.
Let's go. Let's all just go anyway.
I'm in right now.
I know I'm missing all the trade shows.
We'll just give it one more minute, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Cool.
Alex and Jim, you guys look great. Loving the backgrounds.
I'm getting my Red Sox hat, at least in the camera.
Oh, I see that.
I miss baseball so much. I'm just trying to incorporate it into anything that I do.
Oh.
I know. I feel like I got robbed this year with my snowboard season, so they're hanging out in the basement.
The only thing that winter is any good for.
That is very true.
What is good for bourbon too? Let's not say the only.
Hey, I like that too.
Is so true. All right, guys. So in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I imagine when the other session wraps up, we'll see a lot more people dialing in, but we will kick it off. So thank you to everybody that is dialing in. We are Magento/Adobe and SearchSpring. And we're super excited to be presenting to you guys today. We're going to be covering what to consider when expanding into e-commerce if you never have before. Obviously, right now, I think a lot of companies are starting to consider e-commerce that maybe hadn't given much thought to their digital maturity previously. And because of recent events, folks are really starting to have to focus on that. So I am going to give a quick agenda overview, and then I'm going to turn it over to the speakers to introduce themselves and kick it off. So we're going to cover quickly the current state of retail with SearchSpring, and then they're going to take you through assessing your site search and relevancy. They're going to talk to you a bit about your merchandising strategy and how to utilize product recommendations. And then we're going to kick it over to Magento Adobe. They're going to talk a little bit about the current state of B2B and walk you through top tips from them, including customer-centric marketing, the B2B technology ecosystem, and also solution partners. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Jim to give a quick introduction.
Thank you, Jess, and thank you to Trellis for putting this event on. We're certainly excited to be part of it. So my name is Jim Gillen. I am responsible for the sales team for Magento, the Magento Commerce division of Adobe here in the Northeast. I'm based in Boston. You might be able to see my Boston Red Sox cap in the background. But I'm in New York quite a bit when the world isn't so crazy. So I spend most of my time there managing our team. And I'm happy to be here and look forward to sharing some insights that we have around how the B2B world is changing from a commerce perspective and some of the things that you need to be looking out for if you're entering into it for the first time. So, and I'll let my partner here, Alex, introduce herself.
Thanks, Jim. My name's Alex. I currently lead our customer success team here at SearchSpring. So have a lot of experience working with not only B2B customers, but also our retail customers. So excited to share some things that we're seeing, not only that can help you on the retail side of things, but also just in general, even if you do have experience in e-commerce, some things to keep in mind as there's a bit more competition as people look to transition online. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started here. So before we jump into everything, wanted to give kind of an overview of just the current state of retail. There's been an extremely large decrease in the amount of retail foot traffic that we've been seeing across the board. So not only in the US, but in other areas as well. So with nearly 1.5 million merchants that are focusing on developing and refining their online merchandising presence, there's not only a lot more competition for those who already were selling online, and the need to make sure that you're honing in and developing that strategy when there's more competition is more relevant than ever. So there's a few things that we'll be talking about here on the next couple of slides that are near and dear to my heart, and some things that we think not only can help increase your conversion rate for shoppers that do come onto the site, but also your average order value, both of which are extremely important all of the time and even more so right now. So with that, we'll go ahead and touch on the first topic, which is site search and relevancy, and my favorite thing to talk about here at SearchSpring. So being in the search world, like I said, this topic is definitely near and dear to my heart. Simply put, a bad search experience on your site is going to cause that potential buyer to look elsewhere to purchase the product that they were hoping to purchase from you. And you might be asking yourself how you can avoid that, whether you're experienced in online e-commerce or this is something that you're encroaching on for the first time. Being able to understand the context of what someone's searching for is really difficult. And it's something that typically you're going to need to use a solutions provider to help with. So for example, if I do a search for a shirt dress or a dress shirt, I'm looking for the exact same terms, but entirely different products. So being able to understand the context in which someone's searching is not only going to help that shopper find the product that they're looking for, but also help you make that conversion and ultimately impact your bottom line. So there's a couple of things that you'll see in the screenshot that we're sharing here, but autocomplete is really the start of the online shopping experience for anyone who's going to be using search on your site. And the ability not only to show them what other terms might be popular on your site, but also give them a bit of an overview of what products they can expect to see for that potential search term is really important. It not only helps them narrow down maybe the context of what they're searching for. So for example, here, if I'm doing a search for a white dress, maybe I actually intended to search for a white maxi dress or a white lace dress. And those are all things that we would then showcase for that particular shopper to hopefully get a better sense of what their actual intent is behind their search. The other thing that you'll notice on the right side of the screenshot is going to be a preview of what products would actually show if I were to actually do the search on the site. So especially for very specific searches, this can save your shoppers a click, especially if they're able to see the product that they intended to search for right there on the screen without having to go to another page on the site. So not only is the relevancy important for you, but also being able to guide them there without having to waste any time or an additional click to get them to the product that they intend to purchase. It really just cuts down on any of the friction that would happen before that point of purchase. Now, there's a topic that I'm going to touch on next that really builds upon top of relevancy, and that's going to be your merchandising strategy, which we'll touch on here on the next slide. And there's a lot of things that you need to consider when you're thinking about developing and refining your merchandising strategy. I would say across the board, this is not going to be a set it and forget it type of strategy, especially right now. Shoppers' needs and desires change frequently, and you'll probably see that the shopper behavior on your site is changing too. And there's some things that I would say I see across the board all the time. Promoting products that are going to be in stock and available for purchase, regardless of your industry, is going to be something that is of high importance, especially right now with some disruptions that people are seeing in their supply chains. And there's other things that you can use to build upon that for a little bit more of a advanced merchandising strategy, if you will. So things like elevating best-selling products or newest products are also things that you can incorporate into that strategy. And you can even take that a step further and understand what type of traffic you're working with. So if you know, for example, all of the people that are coming to your site are returning visitors, you're probably going to want to highlight your newest products. They're expecting to see what products you've recently released, and that's probably what they're intending to purchase. However, if you have primarily returning traffic, you're likely going to want to highlight some of those best-selling products so that people can get an idea of what products are typically purchased should someone come to the site and look to ultimately purchase a product that you carry. Now, there's some more advanced strategies that can be even more so built upon what we've already discussed, and that can be things like highlighting products that have a higher gross margin, high inventory products if you're looking to get rid of products that you have a lot of on hand, or even future availability dates. So for some of the customers that we work with right now, they're working with some disruptions in their inventory availability, but they actually have projections on when they expect to have things back in stock. So even with your out of stock products, there can be a strategy there to ensure that once you do have those products available, people are able to see that they're now available for purchase or can sign up for restock notifications. Now, a lot of what we've touched on so far has really been a combination of what your shoppers would expect to see and what you are wanting to highlight internally. And there's really a push and pull between the two of them and something that needs to be considered. So when you're thinking about that strategy, it's important to not only care about what's important to your customers, but also what's important to you as a business owner or an e-commerce manager, so that you're refining that strategy to promote the products that you want to purchase and the products that, or the products that your customers want to purchase and the products that you want to sell. Last but not least, we are going to touch on product recommendations as well. I would say this is really that final piece of the merchandising strategy that can help you not only increase your average order value, either through the use of complementary or upsell products, but this allows you to get products in front of people that they might not typically see on your site. So for example, if I'm highlighting products that are similar, maybe I'm highlighting products that are very similar to the product that someone's currently viewing, but they're a higher price point, and you can drive that average order value up simply by suggesting a higher priced but similar item. The other thing that you're able to do with these is actually identify areas where you might want to upsell or cross-sell to someone. So for example, if I wanted to highlight a complementary product, say I sell jewelry and I want to highlight jewelry cleaner or jewelry boxes, those are quick little add-ons that can really drive up that purchase value without you having to do a lot of extra manual work. So I know that was a lot of information, and there's certainly a lot to think about when you're starting to get into e-commerce for the first time, or you're finally starting to identify areas of opportunity on your current website. And these are really just some things that can overall enhance the site that you are planning on launching or you already have to help elevate that shopping experience for your customers. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Jim, who's going to touch on some strategies for B2B specifically.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. And yeah, as Alex mentioned, you know, B2B world, there's a lot of similarities, by the way, with what's happening in B2B commerce compared to what's happening with direct to consumer. And certainly COVID-19 and the crisis has changed the landscape dramatically, and it's evolving as we speak. And there was a report that recently came out by McKinsey and Company that gave some interesting statistics around the current state of B2B commerce. Specifically, you'll see here that just over half of companies have been able to maintain or plan on increasing their spend from an e-commerce perspective during the crisis. So they're recognizing the importance of e-commerce and the digital channel as it relates to how the world is changing today. 90% of companies interviewed for this particular study have transformed completely to an online-only selling structure. Which is shouldn't be too surprising, but it's a staggering number considering how traditional some of these old school B2B companies have been over the years. So adopting that digital channel and selling online, for the most part exclusively, at least during this crisis, is kind of it's an eye-opening and eyebrow-raising number. Now, 54% of these companies are indicating that it's as effective or even more effective for maintaining and reaching their clients and maintaining the business. So I think you're going to start seeing a shift that has already begun. You know, B2B commerce has been growing steadily over the past 3 or 4 or 5 years. And you're going to see this COVID-19 crisis is only going to be accelerating that change. So more and more companies are going to be going online. And for companies that are doing that for the very first time, I have a few items to consider that we're seeing our customers talk about. And even for companies that have been selling online for quite a while, this might be some information or some insight that could be useful as you start to evolve or change the way you're doing business. And it really comes down to 3 specific categories. Customer-centric marketing, we're seeing that as a trend in the B2B world. It's been very prominent in the B2C space, as Alex mentioned a few of those things already, but being really focused on the customer as opposed to on product only or pricing only is going to be paramount for B2B companies to not only survive but thrive in the online world. And I think it's also important to really get a good understanding of the technology ecosystem for B2B commerce, because it's a little bit different. There are some certain things that companies will want to consider that might be a little bit different from selling in a traditional direct-to-consumer way. And then finally, technology is wonderful, but it's without people implementing it and supporting it and providing the right guidance, it can be an investment that doesn't provide the return that you're looking for. So I want to talk a little bit about things to consider when you're choosing your partners and choosing organizations to work with as you start to evolve your business. So starting off with consumer or customer-centric marketing, really there's 4 points I wanted to kind of talk about. And the first one is really, again, it's kind of table stakes, and it's information that I think we're doing in the direct-to-consumer world already, but it's creating that consistent marketing message across all your different channels: mobile, social, and digital marketing. Predominantly, we refer to digital marketing as email, but there's also search engine optimization, search engine marketing. All facets of marketing in general in the digital world need to be consistent, but that's not enough anymore. In the B2B world, we have to be more personalized, and we have to take kind of a look at providing a personal customer experience, personal journey to help lead B2B buyers through the funnel. And that really starts with things like more relevant content and offers. It involves customized price lists, company-specific catalogs. These are all things that you may offer in a traditional way, but providing it in the digital world is going to be very relevant. You have to consider that these buyers in the B2B space are the same people that go home at night after work, and they're buying online for their families. And so they have a certain set of expectations from a direct-to-consumer perspective when they're shopping online. So when they go back to work and they're buying for their business, they want to have that same type of experience. We call it the consumerization of the B2B commerce space. And really, it's about making their lives easier with a personalized, experience-driven journey. It's going to result in higher conversion rates and definitely higher average order values. So it's being consistent, it's being personalized, but then you have to actually reach the customers where they are. And B2B businesses these days, they certainly have already gone global in many ways, but bringing that to the online world presents some challenges. It's providing the ability to offer multilingual sites for different locales or different countries, local tax and local currency. It's providing a responsive web design. You may have heard of PWAs, or progressive web apps. This is the ability to have a design framework for your website that provides an app-like experience on a mobile device. This is something that is becoming more and more popular, and the B2B B2B commerce world has to really adapt to that, because more and more B2B buyers are going to be shopping online via a mobile device. And then finally, I mean, we talk about Amazon as a marketplace and other sales channels, but those are just as important and relevant for B2B sellers as well as they are for direct-to-consumer. So being able to embrace that, understand the power of an Amazon, for example, is going to be very relevant as an organization starts to transition their business more to the digital channel. Now, selling is one thing, but maintaining those customers and building that customer loyalty is certainly another thing. And it's really about post-sale communication. So marketers on the B2B space need to understand the importance of maintaining that relationship and creating that dialogue with your customers. Maybe it's something you haven't had to do very often in the digital world because your traditional sales reps that go out in the field are making those regular sales calls, and they're, your customers are relying on them to maintain that relationship between your organization and themselves. Well, in this new world, being able to do that online is going to be extremely critical. So being able to promote things such as reorders or subscriptions or upsell opportunities, and just generate more customer loyalty through an online channel is a trend that we're seeing really take off here in the B2B space. I mean, think about it. As more companies are selling online in the B2B world, your competitors are going to be harder and harder to beat. Again, before they may have relied on a personal relationship with your sales rep, but they're just going to be one click away from finding a new supplier. So we need to be vigilant at protecting your client base and strengthening that loyalty. So that's a lot right there, but I think all of that is going to really depend on having the right technology in your environment, and understand that this is going to take some budgeting. It's going to take an investment, and I know a lot of organizations out there have been resistant to technology investments. We've always done it this way. We've always done it that way, and it's always worked for us. Well, those days are ending, and being able to budget for your investment is really the first step. And you need to really go to your leadership, help them understand the value of a digital transformation. Businesses that are going to be reluctant to embrace technology in this day and age are really going to struggle. And sometimes it's about taking what you can get and proving the value. So finding a small win with a small project, showing results, and then using that to feed further investment is something that a lot of organizations that we're seeing are trying. They may have multiple brands and multiple lines of business that they want to bring online, but they'll start with one. They'll start with one small brand or one small business, get that up and running, show the value, and then work towards bringing the other brands online once it's proven. And consult with experts. There is something to say about, it's hard to evaluate technology if you've never done it before. And a lot of B2B companies that haven't had to make that investment, they simply are at the infancy stages of understanding what this technology can do. So, we'll talk about solution partners more in a bit, but there's a lot of organizations out there, a lot of consulting organizations, a lot of technology partners will have integrations with other complementary technology within the ecosystem. Talk to as many people as you can to learn. It's foolhardy to think that you can evaluate this if you've never done it before. We've seen people, hire consultants that have just come in for the sole purpose of having a better understanding of what the landscape, has for them. But perhaps most importantly, hire the right people. I mean, that sounds very simple, but hire people that have been there and done that before. They've already made the mistakes that you're prone to make as a first-time entry into the e-commerce world. So leverage that experience to your benefit. So if you're going to be hiring staff out there, make sure it's a strong, nice to have, or even a must have, that the folks you're hiring have experience at doing some of the things that you're looking to do here in the near future. So budgeting is an important thing. Let's talk a little bit about some of the essential capabilities or the essential technology in terms of some of the platforms you'll want to consider. First and foremost is an e-commerce platform. Now, coming from Magento, obviously I'm going to say that the e-commerce platform is the center of the universe, and we're the sun, and all the technologies are, all the other technologies rotate around us. And in a sense, it's sort of true. We are the engine that's driving the transactions and driving the customer experience. So consider an e-commerce platform that's tried and true and proven and scalable as one of your major investments as you start to move forward. In other words, don't build it on your own. Leverage the experts and leverage technology that's done it before. We talk a lot about data. Data today is more important than it ever has been before, and companies that are able to harness that data and really get insights out of it to help make better business decisions, you're going to come out ahead of your competition. So there's a lot of data warehouse technologies, a lot of analytics capabilities out there, some within e-commerce platforms, some are complementary. Evaluate them all, understand and assess how you can use data to help drive your business decisions. And we talked about email marketing earlier before, but I'll just share this one stat. And I actually, part of my career was spent in the email space, and this was true before, it's true now. I just did the research on it. Email is by far, gives you the best bang for your buck in terms of ROI from a digital marketing investment. The estimate is, or the average is, for every $1 you spend on email, you get $40 in return. Now, number 2 on that list is SEO, search engine optimization, and that's a $22 to $1 investment return, which is fantastic, but it's about half of what email can provide. So if you don't have an email marketing, email service provider or email marketing solution in place today, or if you do, but it's maybe not sufficient and you need to increase the investment there, understand that it's true in the B2C world, but it's also true in the B2B world. Email is going to provide a huge return on your investment. Now, those are some of the baseline capabilities. In terms of future-proofing your business, there's a lot of advanced technology out there today. Advanced web content management is a good example. At Adobe, we have a very strong product called Adobe Experience Manager, but there's others out there as well that can provide some really strong workflow and personalization capabilities to provide a really elegant and beautiful experience for your consumers and for your buyers online. So that's something to consider. If you were attending the first session by Saligo, they talked about, if you attended the first session, you may have attended also the opening remarks by Jared at Trellis, and he talked about artificial intelligence and machine learning. That is something extremely important. Alex talked a little bit about product recommendations and being able to use AI and to drive dynamic product recommendations rather than rely on rules-based or manually created recommendations is going to be really, really important for you in the future to help streamline your operations and become more effective in increasing conversion rates. Imaging is another thing. Imaging capabilities are pretty common these days. If you go to any website, you can take a look at an image, zoom in, see different colors. That's all fantastic. That's, like, in my opinion, table stakes. But being able to take an image and rotate it 360 degrees and maybe put different components together via visual interface, those types of capabilities and multimedia capabilities are a little bit more advanced. And for some manufacturers out there that are providing configure-to-order products, these are things that, again, it's industry specific, but it's something that you may want to consider. And there's other things as well, again, depending on your needs, product information management or PIM solutions, inventory management solutions, a number of different things. And again, leverage your experts, talk to your partners about what types of technologies might be important for you as you're venturing into e-commerce. And then finally, using all those different capabilities, they have to talk to each other. So integrations are super, super important. And investing in kind of an open and modern technology stack with open APIs and an integration framework is something to consider. So as you're evaluating technology, do your due diligence on what is modern, what is up to date, and what the APIs look like, and how can you integrate that into other systems, back-end systems that you're using today. A lot of organizations, a lot of solutions like Magento have pre-built extensions. We call them extensions, but sometimes they're called connectors or plugins. These are all synonymous for basically third-party capabilities, how they can work with a specific solution. You don't want to have to recreate the wheel to integrate the different technologies. So sometimes there's pre-built connectors that I think you should absolutely take a look at. And then finally, rely on your experts. Again, Jess, you can go to the next slide. I know you were anxious to get there because you're in the partner world. And we love to talk about our solution partners. Experience really does matter here, folks. So if you're in the B2B world, you really want to find partners that have experience in implementing B2B solutions. Now, it's a bonus if they also have B2C experience, because we've talked a lot about the consumerization of B2B and how it's mimicking and mirroring what's happening in the direct-to-consumer world. So you find a partner with strong B2B background that also does some B2C work, you found the perfect partner right there. But there's going to be risks, all right? So a lot of organizations these days that are kind of doing this for the first time, they are they're hoping to leverage some of their internal IT and development staff. And that sometimes can present a risk if there's some disconnect between your IT staff and some of the solution partners that you're working with. So I would map out very clearly with your partners what roles and responsibilities are going to be assigned to your team versus their team. There's also a lot of partners out there that are not certified with the technologies that they work with. I know here at Magento, there's a lot of organizations out there that they claim to be Magento partners, but they don't have the enablement or the training or the support from Adobe to keep their certifications up and running or up to date. So that presents some risk as well. So again, it's all about due diligence. It's all about interviewing your partners, talking to your vendors, and understanding what their best recommendations are as to who to work with. Finally, I'll say this. I mean, create a wish list. A wish list of items that might be used or might be able to be deployed in a future state. But there's a certain term that we use called MVP, or minimal viable product. So as you're getting up and running in B2B commerce for the very first time, understand what your must-haves might look like and create that list and document that with your partner so that those deliverables are achieved in your phase one. But have a phase 2, 3, and 4 already in mind for the future. You have to accept that your website will never be done. You'll always be working on it. You'll always be evolving it, adding features, integrating third-party technologies. Just as standards and technology advancements and innovations increase, your website will increase as well. Not to mention buyers' demands online, right? So their demands are going to be increasing as well. So you need to adapt. So your site will never be finished. So create that wish list of future items and then put it on a roadmap, create your budgets for it, and work towards the kind of that holy grail. I think that might be all I have for my content here, but I think what we're going to do, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're going to turn it over to some questions. So if anyone has any questions for myself or for Alex at SearchSpring, you can enter them in the chat field, and we'll be happy to address them.
Yep, and I just want to jump in real quick. Thank you, Jim. Thanks, Alex. That was awesome. I want to also point out this really fantastic software, Hopin, which is new to everybody today. Thank you, Trellis, for setting all this up and working through this with us. If you guys want to learn anything more about either Magento or Adobe, or SearchSpring, we have booths that you can go to. So SearchSpring has a booth that has somebody manning it, so you can have like a one-on-one conversation with them. And then in the Magento booth, you can fill out a form, and we'll go ahead and follow up with you directly. So definitely be sure to pop by our booths. I don't see any questions in chat, which just means that Jim and Alex did a fantastic job and covered everything you could possibly ever want to know about ecom. Where can
well, there's a lot to know. A lot of times questions come up after a session is over. So again, as Jess mentioned, you can visit our expo, our booth in the expo link. If you on the left side of the panel, there's a link. Once you hit that link for expo, you'll be transported over to the booths. But you can also contact us directly. Jess, does the next slide have our email addresses?
Yeah, it does. Let me put it up for you guys. And I did see one question in chat from Jillian. So she's asking, for a brand who is new to the online B2B space and a bit unsure where to start, how would you suggest building out a requirements list?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first thing that pops to my mind is talk to your customers, some of your most valued customers, and let them know what you're looking to do, and say, what would you like to see in terms of a self-service type of environment where you can place your orders online. And believe it or not, you'll get a lot of great feature requests directly from them. In addition, shop some of your competitor sites. Now, if you can get into them, a lot of times they're password protected if they're in the B2B world. But I would browse around and look at similar organizations and similar companies to see what features that they're offering online. And even in the B2C world, there may be a lot of different things that are in direct to consumer that would be very relevant to your particular business. So I think those are the first two places I'd start. It's a great question.
Awesome. Thanks, Jillian. So for anybody that joined late, I believe Trellis is going to be able to share out a recording of the session. So don't worry, you'll get the content that you might have missed. Other than that, sorry, there's one other question from Herschel. What platforms do you know of which are good for B2B and B2C websites?
So this is, it's hard for me to answer this because I come from Magento. Now, the nice thing about Magento's platform is we do offer both B2B and B2C within the same exact platform. It's the same UI. It's the same instance of the software. There's no additional license fees to sell B2B versus B2C. All the capabilities for both are native within the platform. And there are other organizations that can offer both as well. But many actually have different interfaces for B2B versus B2C. But certainly Magento is the first one that pops into my mind. Herschel, thanks for the question.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, what's the best way to build an email list other than your existing emails? I can actually probably jump in there. So just to give you guys a background for everybody that's joining on myself, I'm a partner sales manager at Adobe, but I actually come from the solution partner world. And I ran marketing for a solution partner prior to joining Adobe. So I have some experience in the B2B world. And so, no problem, Herschel. So building out an email list, the best way to do it is to identify your ideal customer profile. Who exactly are you going to target based on who you are, what your differentiators are, like who can you sell to, what are their pain points, and then create what we call lead magnets. And these are going to be downloadable assets like a white paper or a webinar, something like this, for example, and promote those across the internet and ask for people to give you their email address as they're downloading white papers, as they're signing up for webinars. And this is especially good for B2B marketing because you can tailor white papers to kind of single out your ideal customer. So if you are wanting to go after, people in the food processing industry, you can create a white paper on food processing and promote that. And anybody that downloads that is going to be interested in what you're selling. I just threw food processing out there as a total in the dark example. Okay, now we're getting a lot more questions, and you can follow up with me on that if you want to learn more.
And to follow up at 3 p.m., we will be talking with both Klaviyo and Pinterest. Klaviyo is an email marketing partner of ours, and I'm sure they can follow up with some additional answers for you.
From Ferris, you mentioned that SEO is the #2 ROI. Can you expand a bit on that and common tools you'd recommend?
So it's a little bit out of my comfort zone in terms of talk about the value of SEO in terms of common tools. However, I will tell you that if you do a search and do some research on ROI for digital marketing, again, email being #1, mobile was up there as well now, social media is up there, but SEO was interesting #2. So the metric was, again, for every dollar invested in a particular type of digital marketing solution or technology, what kind of return are you expected? So for every $1 of SEO you're investing, there was a $22 on average in this particular study, a $22 return on that investment, and that would likely come through ways of more visitors landing on your site, which result into more sessions and certainly a higher or more conversions in general. But I wish I could answer you further. Maybe someone from the Trellis team can set up some time with you to talk more about SEO, because I know they're really, really strong at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Ferris, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My name is Justin Whitaker. I'm the Director of Marketing at Trellis, and I'd be happy to answer any in-depth questions you have about SEO.
Awesome. If anybody on the line has further questions, again, don't hesitate to reach out to us directly, stop by our expo, and you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for the attention and the time, and enjoy the rest of the summit. And thank you again to Trellis for putting on this event. You guys are great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Justin. How are you?
Good. How's life?
Good, man.
Wonderful.
I'm enjoying this. This is great, man. I'm really liking the setup.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, I like this. I like this platform. It's pretty good.
Yeah. It seems really interactive.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna test my screen really quick.
Yep. Go ahead. I'll let you know.
Let me see
Your
what we
audio
got.
is fine, by the way.
Yeah, I'm using a headset. I cannot get the audio to work for my computer. It just does not work great. Do you see my deck?
I do. Yeah, looks good.
Okay, cool. And we'll just give everybody a few minutes. It's not quite time yet.
Yeah, perfect. I'm going to stop sharing my audio and video, so you have the floor here, and if you need anything, just let us know.
Okay, great. Hi everyone. I'm just gonna wait a few more minutes, let everybody get going, and I'll start the presentation. Assuming everyone can hear me and see. Thank you. Thanks, Ferris. Appreciate that. Oh, that's good. Good. Many thanks to the Trellis team for having us. Well, in the interest of time, I will go ahead and get started. My name is Kevin Klein. I'm the manager of a solution provider network at ShipStation. We have about over 350 solution providers that we interact with, Trellis being one of them. So we really are honored and humbled to be here. Today, I'm going to talk about fulfillment strategy, the new world of that we're in terms of COVID-19, some of the trends that we're seeing. Talk about some of the issues with FBA, some of the issues with Amazon, and how that's been affecting a lot of e-commerce sellers in the market, as well as some alternatives there. And then if you're new to e-commerce and new to the fulfillment world, and I can tell you by the number of customers that we've been interacting with since about mid-March. There are a lot of new companies now, or companies that are getting into the e-commerce space, mostly out of necessity. And then I'll talk briefly about some tips, fulfillment tips when you're moving online, some things that we've seen across the fulfillment world that we found valuable, that we think can really make a positive impact in your overall online operation. So first, yep, my name again. I'm Kevin Klein, manager of solution providers. I worked in the manufacturing world before I came over to ShipStation. I was actually in the music industry. I worked for a company called Fender, helping them execute D2C strategies, as well as a Japanese synthesizer company called Korg. So I sort of saw it on two sides of the coin. One from the manufacturing side, interacting with retailers. And a lot of retailers in that space were in the same sort of, it's interesting, in the early 2010s, a lot of brick and mortar stores in the music industry were making the shift online. And I'm actually starting to see a lot of parallels in sort of the challenges that they're up against, because we're seeing that now, where a lot of these companies have sort of put off potentially moving online, and now they are, and moving into the fulfillment world, and they're grappling with those challenges. So seeing it on both sides, found my way to ShipStation, and have been here for a couple years, and really sort of learned the e-commerce space from both sides of it. So in relation to COVID-19, right around mid-March, we as a company at ShipStation decided that we all needed to work remotely, which has its challenges, but we also started to see a tremendous uptick in people not only moving online, but also finding interest in how they fulfill those packages and how they fulfill those orders. And so we decided to go out to our user base and do a survey of the users on our platform to glean some insights. And we found some pretty interesting statistics. One of those ones that really stood out to me was 54% of Americans are saying they're shopping online more as a result of the outbreak. I don't see that as surprising. I myself, and I tend to internalize things and personalize things a little bit, but anecdotally, just speaking with friends and family, I mean, a lot of people are shopping online because they can't, right? All the stores are closed, the brick and mortar stores. If I want to buy, a new shirt or something like that, I'm going to go to an online retailer. And in just 1 month, right, since the month of April, we saw a 23% increase in spending since the beginning of the pandemic. And I saw a report the other day. It was pretty interesting, that the penetration of e-commerce and retail sales is sort of year over year grown maybe 2-3% to now. I saw the most recent statistic is that it's close to 20% now in terms of retail penetration. If that remains to be true, then e-commerce is going to continue to be more relevant than ever. And I think that's probably why you see a lot of companies evaluating their e-commerce operations. What platforms are they using? What partners are they partnering with? And it continues into a lot of other really interesting statistics. I mean, 50% of consumers are saying that they've spent more on retail in the last 30 to 60 days than in previous months. Some of that, for me, it feels like it's a little bit of boredom. Some people are shopping online. They're stuck at home. They're maybe taking care of some shopping. They've got extra time. And of course, they're going to turn to online retailers to do that. But the next one, 32% of consumers buying online, because some of these stores are placing limits on what they're able to buy in bulk, where the online retailers are not, or the online retailers are better satisfying some of the needs that's coming out of the market. I've seen bulk hand sanitizer that a lot of online retailers have been making. So these stores, even food, are saying you can only buy a certain amount, but they want to buy more, so they go to the online retailers and spread that out, because you can go to one retailer or multiple online and grab those products. The other interesting statistic, 45% of respondents said they spent more in previous months because of COVID-19. Again, that kind of lines up with what we're seeing across the board, is just a lot more people are shopping online. ShipStation has seen a massive influx in just our overall users. The users that are on the platform. Shipping volume has gone through the roof. And I think a lot of the expectations of the e-commerce experience are sort of here to stay. So the next one, I'm talking about 58% of consumers want those extended returns. It's kind of like, once you give these consumers the experience, once you give them these things, you give them extra benefits. It's very hard to take it away. They've become accustomed to those experiences, and so their expectations is that those return windows, in response to COVID-19, remain. The experience, the positive experience they got online, their expectations is that stays. A lot of people have been taking advantage of curbside pickup. That's, again, out of necessity. But we're seeing our users who've maybe done just purely e-commerce or brick and mortar stores who have an e-commerce presence, that's the only part of the business that's kind of keeping them sustaining right now. Incorporating a curbside pickup strategy into that, and using the ShipStation platform to manage some of that. And then finally, 74%, almost three quarters there of consumers are planning to support more local and independent brands in the future. I am seeing this, and you kind of saw this in the news about the small business planning program. Some of these big companies were taking the loans, and they weren't quote unquote considered, small or local businesses. I think there's a lot more awareness now about sort of the impact of COVID-19 on people's local infrastructure, local businesses, especially local restaurants. I've seen that ethos sort of extend through certainly my community, where people are seeing restaurants that they love and go to all the time, and suddenly they can't go there, or they know they're struggling, and so that there's more awareness on local independent brands than ever before, and I think that's going to continue and bode well for companies who are moving online or trying to establish an independent brand. So another big challenge we saw in the e-commerce and fulfillment space is a lot of these companies who maybe had an e-commerce presence on Amazon, especially around fulfillment by Amazon, were severely impacted. You may have heard the news that Amazon, during sort of the height of the pandemic, late March, early April, suspended FBA shipments for non-essential goods. So if you don't know what FBA is, it's just an acronym for Fulfilled by Amazon. This is where Amazon will take inventory from a third-party marketplace and fulfill it on behalf of those merchants. And there's benefits to that, because that merchant gets the Prime check, and they get access to Prime customers. Prime customers can purchase their products and get that 2-day delivery and the Amazon guarantee. But if you had put all of your eggs in the FBA basket, which I know quite a few merchants who are 90% FBA because it works so well, and then have to maintain a warehouse staff. You really got into trouble during the pandemic, because they were no longer taking those FBA orders. So if you had inventory up there, great. You were able to sort of survive. But if you were like a lot of merchants who have just in-time inventory strategy with Amazon, because they charge fees to have things in their warehouse, you were really in trouble. Right? And fortunately, there were a few alternatives that when our customers came to us and said, what are we going to do? We only do FBA. What are our options? We were able to sort of provide some access to potential alternatives. So one of those alternatives that we saw was fulfilled by merchant. And Amazon opened this up, and it continues to open up wider, because they know that they just don't have the warehouse space or the capacity to take all of these various products. And if their merchants can fulfill products in a timely fashion that's within sort of the standard of Amazon 2-day, then why not? And so we're lucky at ShipStation being one of the few fulfillment apps out there that has access to the Fulfilled by Merchant program that allows you to print those labels within our platform. We also saw people, another alternative is just store pickup and quite frankly, just fulfilling your own orders and being able to get on the marketplace and say, hey, we can still do 2-day. And we've really always tried to encourage our users to take advantage of automation, take advantage of things that can reduce the anxiety that comes from having to suddenly execute a fulfillment strategy that's as powerful or as well put together as Amazon. But that's certainly an alternative, and I think even Trellis sent out an email, when this was all going, about some ways, some opportunities to potentially mitigate the negative impact of Amazon's decision in FBA. And then certainly another option during this sort of Amazon changing the game in the middle of it, changing the rules, if you will, is using a third-party fulfillment provider. So we're actually good partners with RubyHaas. I believe they're also a sponsor of this event. Could really impact and have a positive impact on a business, especially if they're trying to put inventory in specific locations to manage the expectations that come across with customers around 2-day or on expedited shipping, even some same-day services. So working with a 3PL like RubyHaas, in conjunction with having your own fulfillment strategy with ShipStation, we have some tools in the platform that allow our customers to do that. It can really help sort of get off of sort of just having all of your eggs in the FBA basket. And I think a lot of people sort of woke up to the realization that maybe that wasn't the most efficient strategy, even though sometimes it's easy. It's risky to sort of put everything in one warehouse with one sort of e-commerce channel. So I know there's a lot of info on the slide, but we did put together I tried to put together some aspects on how to adapt your business. Just what are some things that a regular merchant can do, someone who's doing business online or even doing brick and mortar operations, that they can make some changes that could potentially have a positive impact during the pandemic. Because honestly, we don't know when the pandemic's going to end. There's a lot of unknowns right there. I think I think a lot of people are wondering where this is going, where the vaccine is going. So just having some adaptation right now and probably investing in what the future is, I think that's going to be super important. So the first of those is just staying informed, right? I mean, following the news, being informed on what the WHO is saying, what the CDC is saying, and being aware of any guidelines or restrictions. They're relevant to your business, especially if it's specific business operations. Maybe you have a product. Being aware of the FBA thing, being aware of that is pretty important. Keeping communication clear and transparent. Any communication with your customers about changes in policy or availability due to the coronavirus should be clear and accessible. Make sure that you're using appropriate channels for each specific message. Just being clear with your customers. I found that people, when I go to a website and they say, hey, look, we're going to be delayed because of the COVID-19, like, I'm okay with that. But then not sending me the product, or not being clear and concise about maybe having some things that are impacting your business, that's really that's poor business. And I think people are understanding of the situation. It just has to be able to communicate it. Product availability, right? So if you're selling masks or PPE or something like that is in high demand right now, absolutely making sure that you indicate the product availability. Is this going to be delayed? Is it back ordered? That's huge. And then obviously increasing your presence online is a big deal. If your products or services can be bought or used online, just increasing that presence across multi-channels so that you can sell those products is a big one. And then just frequent asked questions. I love FAQs. I think that's sort of self-serve. I'm very like DIY. So if I go in and I want to potentially find an answer without having to talk to a customer service rep, I think that's pretty important. Cool. Next question here. Moving online, becoming a multi-channel seller. A multi-channel selling strategy is pretty big. Hey, Justin, can you see my deck? Is everybody still here? I'm getting notes that some people aren't able to see it. I'm sorry to pause the presentation here. Just give me 1 second, guys. Give me just 1 second. Jump into. Yeah, so just moving online, becoming a multi-channel seller, super important. Great way to increase visibility and drive traffic for your business. Okay, I'm going to jump into the other session. It looks like we are being told that I need to be jumping out into a different session. Give me 1 second.